In this video, we are going to be checking out DjinnBass 2 from Submission Audio. We are going to hear in the mix and soloed bass audio examples. We'll walk through all the new features it offers, so let's jump into it. What is up, everyone? Jeremy here, and let's just go ahead and jump right into the DAW and check out DjinnBass 2. So here we are in Pro Tools. I've got DjinnBass 2 pulled up, and you can see its fancy new interface. With the DI, grit, distortion, all the different articulations here on the left, different settings in the middle, humanized position, and you actually have the fretboard, which is interactive, whereas the other one didn't have that before, so that's pretty cool. So just a quick walkthrough of the feature set. As I mentioned, you have the DI output, you have grit setting, and you have distortion setting. Because I'm using an external processing for the actual tone, let me bypass that real quick and we'll give you an example of what these each sound like. So here's DI. And grit. And distortion. And of course you have the mixer here where you can adjust the drive, the tone, compression, and the girth for each of these. And this is active for both grit and distortion. The DI is obviously as is. There's no processing to that. Then you have the individual articulations, which you change in the MIDI, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But then you have the pick setting or fingered setting, which is pretty cool. The other one I believe was just pick. There was no option for fingered. And then you have the alternate picking settings. You can adjust the BPM, all kinds of stuff in here. In fact, you have like quarter notes, eighth notes, sixteenths, etc. Or you can just keep it on auto, and I found this just works really well. So I've been keeping it on auto. Doom, which is to, if I understand it correctly, it basically just maxes the velocities on all the notes. So everything is almost very machine-like and it hits really hard, which is really good for some of like the EDM stuff, I understand. But if you want this to sound more human, this is not really something you want. It could probably be cool in different sections of your song if you automate it on and off, but for the most part, if you're doing stuff like metal and you want it to sound a little bit more human, probably keep this off. The humanize is adjustable all the way from machine all the way up to bassist. And Submission Audio recommends you keep it right around noon, which is where I have it right now, because that's kind of the best of both worlds of a consistent, keeping things consistent while also adding in some of that humanized behavior to where not every note is exactly the same, so it doesn't sound like a machine. And then we have position, which is basically like a virtual capo, as you can see right there. So it just kind of like moves where you would have like the capo on the actual fretboard. And then there are some of the new features that are behind the scenes things that aren't settings you change in the UI. And those are things like their truBass technology, which is improving the way that this comes through, sounding more human and natural. And that's not something that was in the first DjinnBass. It did have a humanization function to it, or alternate picking, I should say. But with the truBass technology, it just takes it to a whole new level of humanization and keeping things sounding real, right? Like it just sounds like you're playing, like someone's actually picked up a bass and playing, which is amazing. And then there's the truSlide technology, which is just incredible. And I've actually had to play with it a little bit here. Because this is my first bass VST from Submission Audio, which has this technology in it. I've been using the original DjinnBass since its release, and I haven't touched any of the other ones just because it's been so great. So of course, when they sent me this one, I was excited that it had these new, truBass, truSlide features in it. So I had to play around with it, and I'll show you examples of that in just a little bit. All right, and so that is a quick overview of all the different features. Now let's see what this thing sounds like. And so the quick signal chain I have here is the DI output from DjinnBass 2 going into an SSL channel strip for some EQ basically, and a little bit of dynamic control. And then we're going into Studio Rack from Waves, and that's so that I can load up my August Rose Audio, the Growler bass plugin as a VST. And I haven't made it available in an AAX format yet, so I had to use Studio Rack to get access to it. And then I'm going into the bass bus, which is just doing a little bit of soothe on the low end. So when the kick hits, it'll drop the bass. I'll give you an example of what it looks like. So there you go. You can see when the kick hits, it's just dropping out some of the low end on the bass so things don't get too boomy. Then I have some low control just to kind of control some of the low end. A little bit of post EQ here just to kind of clean up some of the lower mids. And then this is side chained with the guitar in this 99 Hertz and around 1400 just to kind of drop those areas when the guitar is playing. And a limiter, and that's the entire bass signal path. So let's hear what it sounds like. Sounds really good. So now let's hear what the bass sounds like on its own. I mean, already that sounds incredible with the alternate picking and the humanization and just how you, when they do those like trills, the brrrah, 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 it literally sounds like someone plucking the thing, the string, and the way it alternates, it sounds really, really good. So one thing I do want to point out is I have never actually been a big fan of fingered bass. However, for this particular track with all of the different like trills like you just heard, or kind of the quick triplets, and there's some 16ths and stuff in here, I found that it came through more clearly with more emphasis when I put it on the finger setting. So I'm gonna switch it to pick mode and just kind of listen to those, you know, those quick like triplets there, and it almost sounds like it loses a little bit of the punch and clarity in those fast sections. So yeah, I mean, it just sounds like there's a little bit more clarity there when I put it on the finger setting, so I left it. And so now what I want to do is just kind of give you an example of some of these really cool articulations, because I was playing around with it, and I'll give you an example of what it sounded like on the old DjinnBass with the new DjinnBass. And so I've got the old, or I should say the OG DjinnBass on this bass 1. Bass 2 is the new DjinnBass 2. So let's go ahead and just kind of zoom in, and I believe it was around here somewhere. Let's just pull it up and see where I've got the articulations. Okay, right here is one. And so let's just give this a listen. Solo this. Okay, so, and you can see the articulations that are happening here in DjinnBass 2 on the left-hand side where it says articulation. And we start off with the main alternating, and then it goes into, what was this one? Dead slap, and then it goes back to main alternating for these different sections here. So you can kind of hear how it goes into that dead slap and then goes back to the original main alternating notes. So have a listen again. Okay, so when you put that in the context of the mix, you can really kind of hear how that comes together. All right, so now let's hear what that same section sounded like on the OG DjinnBass without any special articulations. And we'll put it in the context of the mix. So I mean, not bad, right? But I just really liked how the dead slap articulation really kind of added emphasis to kind of just those quick, you know, triplet or 16ths, whether they are just being real short. So that was really cool. One of the other things that I found really, really cool is, as I mentioned before, the truSlide technology. And so I had to experiment with that. And so let's go over here where I added in a neat little slide. So there's another thing that I want to point out here, a feature I should have mentioned earlier in the features overview, but it is called force string technology, where you can force a note to be played on a particular string, and that is what I'm doing right here. So this note way up here at G8, you can see this actually forces the string, and if I go into DjinnBass 2 settings, you can see G8 forces to the B string. So that will play here, or specifically whatever note it is here. right there. So you see how it shows it on the second string, but when it's actually played, if you watch the fretboard, it will be on the B string on the top, and it'll be a slide. It's going to start there and go all the way down. So check this out. I'm going to solo this. That is freaking cool as hell. That is so damn cool. Not only do you get to see it actually force that note on the fretboard on the B string, but you see the whole thing slide down and it sounds so damn cool. Listen to this again. Brr, I mean, that is just badass. And then if we put it in the mix, come on, that is so damn cool. And that was not in the original track when I released this, and this is the song from my EP I put out last year, but I couldn't do slides like that. I used the OG DjinnBass and it didn't have that, but I had to experiment with it just because that's really damn cool. So that's basically it, and I think there was one other articulation I added in here. Oh, there's some other slides. Let's see what this one sounds like. Okay, that's another cool one here. So there's a note that's kind of played up higher on the fretboard, and the way it worked before was it was just dun, dun, and it just kind of made alternating notes. But now what I updated it to was dun, dun, and it slides down. So check this out. That is freaking cool. All right, I've got one last articulation example here. And this is the dead strum. So I'll give you an example here. And this is on those same like quick triplet, 16th, whatever they are. But I've also found this articulation worked really well here. So I left it here in the end of this song. So I'll solo this. So that's what it sounds like. And if we unsolo it and put it in the context of the mix, you get this. I mean, it just sounds absolutely incredible. And I don't think I gave you a full in-context example of this section back here. This is probably my favorite section in the song. And with these slides, it just took it to the next level. So I'm gonna give you an example of what this sounded like in context. It just sounds so damn cool. I might have to re-release this song now with this new bass because this is just nuts. All right, so that is a quick overview of everything there is to offer in DjinnBass 2. We walked through the features, the new technologies it has. We've seen some of the articulations in context and soloed. You heard it, it sounds fantastic. There's even more articulations than I went over here. There's a ton. So you can check all those out and read more about it on the website. You'll find the link for that in the description down below. Definitely go over there and check that out. All right, and with that, I want to say thank you for watching. Definitely hit that like button down below if you dig this content. Hit subscribe if you want to see more like this in the future. And with that, I will leave you with the outro of this incredible track with this incredible bass plugin so you get another example of what this thing sounds like.